You're listening to The Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
Welcome to another episode of The Practical Wealth Show. And so today we're going to talk about we'll edit this out, right? It is the path to prosperity, how to become financially free starting from wherever you are right now. So I have a fantastic guest. I have Miss Penelope Jane Smith. And she's the premier, financial freedom member for women entrepreneurs and the go-to expert for some of the biggest names in the conscious business industry. And after losing, so let's tell a little bit about her, and I'm gonna let her tell about herself. After losing her multi-million-dollar real estate empire in the 2008 crash, she became more passionate than ever of providing other women entrepreneurs with the financial education they never received in school. So avoid the painful mistakes she'd made. So together with her team at Real Prosperity Inc., she helps women entrepreneurs get a handle on their money, figure out what it'll take for them to be financially free, and chart a course to get there. And so Penelope, welcome to the Practical Wealth Show.
Thank you so much, Curtis. I love geeking out about money. And I love that we have this similar vision of supporting people to become financially free. And we come at it kind of from different angles. So I think this is going to be a really valuable interview.
Yeah, I think so. So anything I didn't tell them that you want to get in there or before we start talking that I didn't mention?
I think the main thing is why women entrepreneurs specifically, because most of what I do can apply to anybody, but I do have a special place in my heart there because most of the financial planning industry is men who are over 50. And like a lot of other industries, there's an inherent gender bias baked into the entire system. And so what ends up happening is the traditional financial planning models are designed for men by men, even though they don't realize it. So these supposedly gender neutral strategies and portfolios leave women with less money at retirement, but it has to last us longer because statistically we live longer. And it doesn't take into account the differences in our lifespans, our career paths, and our goals. So that's why I focus on women, and the approach that I take really is gender neutral so that it's not defaulting to the male like so many industries. Like, did you know, Curtis, and this is wild, that more women are injured and die from seatbelts than men because the tests are done on the average man?
No.
Yeah. So this is this is heart medication. I mean, women literally have less money, have more disease, are dying because of this gender bias. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that since you shared that I work mostly with women entrepreneurs, even though I do have plenty of clients who are men or binary.
Still call her if you're a guy. Okay.
Yeah, but that's why.
Yeah. But men, there's a lot of men, but so you might want to get a balanced view of everything, right? So that's good stuff. No, I didn't know that. So I didn't really even think about that it's gender biased. So I have to catch myself, make sure I'm not doing that. Although it seems like I have a lot of women clients, so it's funny that because I tend to look, we just talk. I have 3 daughters, so I'm already wired to teach women how money works because I got to make sure my daughters don't get with some knucklehead. So
there you go.
But so let's talk about when you say financial freedom, what is that? Because I always ask you, that means a lot of things to a lot of people. When you say financial freedom, because it's hard to reach a target you don't have, right? What does that mean to you?
I'm actually glad you asked that because I feel like a lot of people have kind of commandeered that term to make it mean weird things.
Right.
So a lot of network marketing people use it, or a lot of business coaches. Like, financial freedom is being able to make as much money as you want. Well, yeah, making as much money as you want and having lots of clients and hitting 6 figures, 7 figures, if that's a goal, that's cool. And there is some freedom there. And so there's really a spectrum of financial experience. And so all of these definitions, like making enough money to pay your bills or having no debt, obviously there's some freedom there, right? Having cash to pay for things you want instead of having to go into debt. There's freedom there. So when I talk about financial freedom, I'm talking about the end of that spectrum, the ultimate milestone, which is where the income from your investments and assets covers all your bills and your lifestyle. So you don't have to work for money if you don't want to, or if you can't. And you don't have to depend on your business, a job, the government, a partner, an adult child, or anyone else for money. And the reason that resonates with me is because freedom is one of my highest values. When I think of the movie Braveheart and he's like, freedom, it brings tears to my eyes, like freedom. Yes, that is what I want for people. And I want people to be able to lead their lives from a place of freedom and joy instead of debt or obligation or fear. And that's what financial freedom allows you to do. It just gives you more choices, right? And I think that you're on board with that.
Yes, that's exactly. Be able to live like you want to live from the income from your personally invested assets without your labor. Okay. And so, because I don't ask people this and they're like, well, I want to get out of debt. Getting out of debt is not financial freedom. It might be part of it, but even it's not even my top 3 things to do.
Yeah.
And, or I want my own business. That is damn sure not financial freedom. I mean, it's part, you know what I mean? It's probably a component of it, but it's not it. And I think a lot of people are hazy on that. That's why, since that's what we talk about, I wanted to start out with that. So people are thinking right, because that is a worthy goal and it's worth it to discipline yourself to get good at what you got to do. And no matter what you got to do to get there legally and ethically, that's where you want to be at. And it's a big deal. So I
Yeah.
think you
And
have to
it
start
really,
out
it
with
really
that.
helps you focus on what's going to move the needle, right? So to say it shorter, when your passive income is more than your expenses, you're financially free.
There you go. I love that. And so, well, let's go here. So in your program, your process, you talk to people about becoming financially free in 5 years or less. Is that a thing that you feel that people can do?
Yeah, the reason that we focus on supporting people in becoming financially free in 5 years or less is
Mm,
because I've gone through financial challenges in my own life, like you mentioned. I took $10,000 of my own money, turned it into over 6 million in real estate.
mm,
I was on track to be able to retire by the time I was 31. And then I lost everything and like lost my beautiful home to foreclosure. My credit was ruined. I was ultimately forced to declare bankruptcy. And so when you hear advice like the Susie Ormans and the Dave Ramseys of the
mm.
world that are like, oh, just
Yeah.
dollar cost average into the stock market for 40 years.
Right.
Well, that's fine. But then what happens if you hit something like that wipes you out, like a bankruptcy or a divorce or some incredible medical thing? And like, basically, like, what if you don't have 40 years? I work with a lot of people who are 50 and up, and they're like, oh, I need to like figure this thing out because I might want to stop working or I might have to stop working at some point, even though a lot of the people I work with like absolutely love what they do, right? Like you're clearly passionate about what you do. I'm passionate about what I do. So it's not like, oh, I want to stop doing what I'm doing, but just to like have that freedom and have that choice, right? And so if you are one of my clients coming to me and you're 50, 60, 70, 80 and you're like, well, I don't yeah, dollar cost averaging for 40 years. Wah,
Right.
wah,
That's
not
not
gonna
going to
work
get it.
for me.
That's right.
There has to be another way. And so for over 20 years, I've been teaching. I've invested over $500,000 in my own education as well as decades of real world experience. And it's like, how do we hone this system to the point where we could get anybody from where they are right now to financially free in 5 years or less, right?
Right. Right.
So some of my clients are able to do it in a few months, and some people it takes longer. But I feel like 5 years is reasonable for if somebody's starting out with not a lot of income or assets,
Hmm.
they could still make it happen in 5 years if they're focused.
Okay. All right. And let's talk about 2 things, making money and growing money, because they're 2
Okay.
different skill sets.
Totally different worlds.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Break that down for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of our education and all of our focus for the most part has been on make money.
Yeah.
Like when I was in school, it was all about get good grades, get a job, build your resume, blah, 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 sell your time, right?
Right.
Which is not always the best way to make money. And then as I hired business mentors, it was like, no, don't sell your time, create value for
Hmm.
money.
Hmm.
But even then, it's still like there's still this hamster wheel that you're on. Like I know people making 6 and 7 figures, 8 figures even, and it's still like there's always the next client, the next commission, the next program, the next launch. And so the make money world is all about turning your effort into money. It's all based on you going out and
Right.
doing stuff.
But you can still be in the rat race as even making $1 million a year. You're just in a higher level of
Oh yeah, for
life.
sure. You know, have you ever played the game Cashflow 101 by Rob?
I have. Yes.
Yeah, right? Super fun. So if you haven't played that and you're listening to this, you can step into these different professions. Like you can play as a doctor, You can play as an airline pilot. You can play as a janitor. And usually people are pretty happy when they get the doctor card because the doctor makes a lot of money. And they're not so happy when they get like the teacher card because the teacher doesn't make a lot of money. But honestly, like my favorite card in that game is the janitor.
Janitor, right.
But it's the easiest to win because they don't make as much money, but they also don't have as much expenses. And by the way, one of my colleagues did the most extensive studies on millionaires to date. And of the top 5 professions most likely to become millionaires, would you think that doctors or teachers are more likely to become millionaires? And before you answer,
Yeah.
doctors make like, I was doing research on average salaries. Doctors make like 10 times what teachers make.
So I want y'all to think about that. She asked that. I mean, knowing a little bit, I'm going to say the teacher.
Yeah. And you would be right, Curtis. So like of the top 5 professions, teachers were one of them. Doctors weren't even in the top 5. So if this was all about making money,
right,
clearly doctors would be up there. The number 1 was business owners. Whoop, whoop.
Yes,
So
that's right.
shout out to all
That's right.
the entrepreneurs and self-employed people here.
Because if you study wealthy people, if you study the Forbes 400, the number one thing they do to get on the Forbes 400 is build a business.
Yeah.
Then they buy real estate, but it's business, real estate, kind of in that order. Would you agree with that? Is that accurate? Would you say?
Well, I think some people, the thing is, real estate comes with a hassle factor that not everybody has the stomach for.
Mm-hmm.
So using your business to generate cash flow is great in terms of like the make money world. And then you want to channel that money into investments to buy assets. So whether it's implementing the infinite banking concepts that Curtis teaches, or investing in real estate or stocks or commodities or crypto or other businesses or vending machines or whatever it is, like the point is take some of that money and then channel it into buying assets that are going to give you more income. And that's how you get into the cash flow pattern of a wealthy person, where you buy assets that give you income, you use some of that income to buy more assets, that assets gives you more income, and you end up in this really lovely prosperity cycle. So to jump back to make money versus grow money, you have doctors making a ton of money, right? You have stories of lottery winners and professional sports players who just make all this money and then they're bankrupt, right? So making money is not the answer. Making money is not financial freedom. Like it's great, but what you need is a system to transfer that money from the make money world to the grow money world. Now, the grow money world has completely different rules. It's a completely different world. It's like figure skating versus baseball. If you're trying to win a gold medal at figure skating using the rules of baseball, you're probably just going to get hurt.
Right.
It's not going to work really well. So whereas the make money world, it's like you're putting in all this like effort and time. In the grow money world, it's different. First of all, it's not fair, right? Stock market goes up or down, or real estate goes up or down, or whatever. Like, take fairness out of it completely. It just is what it is. So you have to wait to be surprised. But then also, your money can work way harder for you than you can ever work for it. So sometimes people try to bring the make money world rules over the grow money world, and they're like, well, if I put in more effort at growing my money, it'll do better. Well, not necessarily, right? Like statistically, people who are actively trading stocks do like 3x worse than people who just buy and hold the market. People who actively trade bonds do like 12x worse than people who just buy and hold. So they're like doing all this effort, and it's having the opposite effect of what they want. It's actually stealing from their financial future, which, they're trying to do the exact opposite, is my point. So the grow money world, what's cool is money can work for you 24/7, 365. It doesn't need to eat. It doesn't need to sleep. It can just be growing and multiplying and having babies, and those babies are having babies. And so people put so much focus on the make money world. But if you could just get your money growing for you, that's going to be a lot more powerful. Like, let's say you took just $50 a month and you transferred that from the make money world to the grow money world when you were 25. And you did that until you were 65. So 40 years.
Right.
You $50 a month times 12 is $600. Times 40 years, that's $24,000. So that's $24,000 of your own blood, sweat, and tears. That is the hardest thing you're ever going to do. But if you invest that money, let's say you can make 15% on it, which I don't know if you can, but let's say you could, you would have over $1.5 million. Okay, so 24 is what you put in. over 1.5 is what you get out. So that money is working way harder for you than you could ever work for it. And so what I encourage you to do is not just focus on make money, but how can you transfer more of that money into the grow money world where you really get that money working for you instead of you always working for it.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that we say now is investing is really not about buying something. More time it's about becoming, right? And so a lot of people don't want to become, like it's be, then do, then have. And so we are trained by Wall Street that you don't have the time, the temperament, or the training to personally handle your own money. So give it to us, right? Just give your money to us. That's their marketing in so many words. And I'm saying that you should do that. But if you want, you could get 15%, but you're going to have to create it, right? You got to learn some stuff. And the thing is, Kiyosaki would say, investing is not risky, being uneducated is risky, right? So
Totally.
as your knowledge goes up, your risk goes down. And so one of the things I want to point out that she said, she invested, I hope y'all caught that, $500,000, not all at once, over
Yeah.
probably 10 years or so, right? In her education, because your number one investment, your number one asset, guys, is you, right? And so you got to invest in your mindset, your skill set, and your network. Skills make money. Okay. Creating value in the marketplace, and money is a result of creating value in the marketplace. And so you got to learn skills to be able to do that, to solve problems. Bigger the problem, the bigger the check. So a lot of times they don't connect the dots between you got a skill, that's what your business is to make money. And then, but it's a different skill of growing it. And then sometimes you are good at that. And other times you should, partner with a team of people to help them do that. And
Yeah.
so
I think
that's a cool thing.
what you're speaking to is like how critical financial education is, right? Because most people here listening have some level of formal education, like
Hmm.
high school, college, kindergarten, right? Maybe even some professional education, like a license, a degree, or certification. But for most of us, like we never got a financial education at home or in school. And so we think it's complicated and we think everybody else has their, what together and we don't. But the truth is, like, it's pretty simple. Investing does not have to be complicated at all.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
economics can be complicated, the markets can be complicated, but investing doesn't have to be.
Yes, that's critical. So I got two. I'm trying to see which order I want to do this. Let's talk about a money date because that's
Okay.
really intriguing. And what is it, and why is it important? Because this is one of the core things she does with her clients. Tell us about the money date.
Yeah, the money date is a game changer for a lot of people. So when I work with people on becoming financially free in 5 years or less, I take them through what I call my wealth accelerator system, which has 4 parts. It's mindset, education, systems, and strategy, or mess. Because like I said, we're all a hot mess when it comes to money.
Right.
And education specifically is the financial education, and systems because human beings just aren't particularly great with money. Like one of the things we do is we are wired for instant gratification,
Hmm.
right? So if we don't have a system to help us save and manage and invest money wisely, it could be easy just to spend all the money,
Hmm.
right? And that's part of why making money is only one part of the equation and not even the most important part. The most important part is putting a system in place to transfer it to the investment world and get it growing for you. So the money date is like the system that makes all the other money systems work. It's like if you think about the Lord of the Rings, it's the one ring to rule them all.
Right.
Because the reason a lot of times people don't put their money systems in place in the first place or
Hmm.
follow their money systems is something super simple. And that's that they don't have the time scheduled on their calendar.
Hmm.
I mean, duh, right? But so what the money date is, you've probably heard of date night with your partner or spouse, right?
Yes.
It's like where you have that special time together just to connect and focus on your relationship. And just like you have a relationship with other people, you have a relationship with money. So if you want to have a wonderful relationship with money where money is attracted to you and comes into your life easily and stays with you and grows for you and works hard for you,
Right.
like give it a little attention. Money loves attention. So the money date is where you carve out sacred time in your calendar, your schedule to give your money your full attention. That's it. So mine is Thursdays at sometimes it's Thursdays at 10 a.m., sometimes it's Thursdays at noon, depending on what I'm doing in my life. It moves
Hmm.
around
Hmm.
depending on what's happening in my life. But lately it's been Thursdays. And that's where you can connect with your money and be like, hey, what have you been up to? What's going on? What money projects do we want to work on? And so during your money date, that's when you can do your cash flow planning. That's when you can implement your investment strategy. That's when you can work on these money making or money keeping projects like, oh, let me go open my Roth IRA, or let me go and review my bookkeeper's reports and make sure everything's categorized completely. Like all of those things that
Oh, I love that.
or feel like we should do, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the money date. And because you have that sacred time in your calendar, now you have the time to go do all those other things. So can I give a few keys to set you up for success with your money date?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. One is to establish a rhythm, because the more you can get into a rhythm with it, the more it becomes automatic and it becomes habit.
Mhm.
Because what you want to do is you want to take the pressure off your willpower.
Right.
Willpower is like a muscle. It gets fatigued from use and it gets fatigued really quickly. So it's very unreliable. What you can see, if you look at a brain scan of this happening, you can see a slowdown in what's called the anterior cingulate cortex of your brain.
Mhm.
And that's the area of your brain that's crucial for like self-control.
Mhm.
And so within like 15, 20 minutes, our willpower is gone and we're back to doing whatever we
Your
want.
willpower is tough. You got to kind of make it systematic. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really can't rely on your willpower. The money date is the thing that takes the most willpower to get started, because you need to actually like put it in your calendar and show up for it.
Mhm.
And so the sooner you can like make it a habit and get into a rhythm with it and take the pressure off your willpower, the better. Because once you're actually sitting there, then it's easy to do the other systems. And then, so establish a rhythm. I would recommend at least once a month. I like to do mine weekly because sometimes I have to skip one. Like today, I'm doing this interview with you, Curtis. And so I'm not doing my money date right now. So I like to not have it go too long,
Mhm.
without doing one.
How long
Uh,
would you do that? So is that like an hour? Is it a half hour?
I would say at least 20 minutes, at least once a month.
20 minutes. Okay.
I like to do an hour personally. So personally, I like to do an hour once a week, skipping some weeks.
Right.
And then with my husband, once a month for 20 minutes. Because in most relationships, you'll find that one person's a little bit more of the nerd and one person's a little bit more of the free spirit. And this is weird because my husband is the software engineer, so you would think that he's the nerd. But when it comes to money, I am the nerd. I'm all up in the spreadsheet.
That's
cash
me.
plan,
Totally. Out of the two,
and
my wife,
everything.
I'm the nerd.
Yeah, I think like whatever, just make sure we have more money in the budget for concerts. Yeah.
Right.
That's it. So he'll meet with me for 20 minutes to update our cash flow plan and talk about a few things, and then that's it. He doesn't have like a big tolerance for that.
So you wait, let's stop there for a second. So you'll do, because I like, for example, I was telling people I try to do my profit and loss weekly. Like I just like reconciling my accounts, because I grew up in retail, right? We used to have a bar. So I literally had to do my numbers every week to see if I got paid, where's my inventory out of whack, were people stealing from me. And I'll talk to business owners, they don't even look at it. And I'm like, are you insane? Okay. And so you do that weekly, and then you look at all your stuff every month.
Well, basically,
What?
I do my own money date just with me and my money weekly.
Yeah.
And then I like to meet with my husband once a month.
Okay. All right.
Because there are some things that I want him to sign off on, like our cash, like we have combined finances.
Mm-hmm.
So I want him to sign off on the cash flow plan. And then sometimes there's money projects like, oh, do we want to increase our auto transfer into our son's 529 plan for his education or something like that.
Right.
So I might need to talk to my husband about some things, but most of the stuff is just me on my own. Like my business stuff, Paul doesn't need to be involved in that, like doing my own revenue projections for my business. Like he doesn't need to be there. I think if you are a business owner, you're probably going to need to do it more than once a month.
Yes.
There's just like more you have to handle. I'm like watching the cash flow with all the accounts receivable and accounts payable. And
Like I look at that every morning.
I'm tracking all that stuff.
Right. Exactly.
And if payments didn't come in, then I'm like pinging my team, like, hey, follow up on, like, or did you follow up on these payments? Can we expect this? So I'm like watching the cash flow in the business, and I'm doing the planning. Like, do we want to hire this person? Do we want to invest in this thing? When can we pay these bonuses? Like, I'm watching all of that.
Okay. So that's what establish a
rhythm. I encourage you to do it before noon because you have more willpower in the morning if you can. And then I would also highly recommend that you have a checklist. And if you want to see an example of this, you can go to moneydatechecklist.com, moneydatechecklist.com. I have a money date checklist template that you can download, but it's like, well, what do you actually do during your money date? You look at your checklist and then you do the first thing on it. So you can take that template and you can use it. You can update it to make it your own. But when you're building a new habit, it helps to focus on micro habits. So like if you want to go to the gym, maybe just make the commitment, put on your sneakers. I'm like, I'm just going to put on my sneakers. And if I don't feel like going to the gym, I will take them off and go back to bed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, like, once you have your sneakers on, you might go to the gym.
Right. Right.
And once you go to the
Have
gym,
the bag
right?
by the door and make sure you
Yeah,
get to the car. If you can get your way driving to the gym, you'll work out if you can get yourself there.
exactly. But the
Yeah.
commitment is just to put on the sneakers.
On
It's
the
like,
sneakers.
okay, I guess I could put on my sneakers. So I encourage you that at least in the beginning, that the commitment is just look at your checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at it. I have a binder with all my money date stuff in it. And the first page is my checklist. And so the first thing I do is I just look at my accounts. So look at my business accounts, make sure there's no like weird charges, look at my personal accounts, make sure everything looks good there. And then I might do things like answer my bookkeeper's questions, review my investment statements. I have something called the wealth dashboard that I fill out that has like all my financial stuff in one place. And that's a tool I use with my financial coaching clients. So updating my wealth dashboard is part of my checklist. The other thing that I suggest is like, if this is a date, right?
Mhm.
Then maybe the first thing on your checklist should be to set them, like, imagine if you're going to have a date, you might like put on a cute outfit, adjust the lighting, tidy up, right? So I had one client who's like a sex and relationship coach.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, well, if this is a date, then I'm going to wear lingerie, right? So she'll put on lingerie for her money date. Some people have like a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. I like to light a candle. It just makes it feel like this nice ritual. Some people dance for a minute, but like doing something like fun and sweet to start it off and set the mood is something you might want to add to your checklist.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to capture my junior high self because I'm thinking all kinds of dumb things to say that I'm not. So go ahead. Don't let me mess you up.
Yeah.
So,
But the point is I just go through the checklist and get as far as I can. I never get through the whole thing
mhm.
because one of my gremlins is like, well, what if I have this money date and I don't have anything to do? So my checklist is designed to like make sure I have something to do. So
That in a binder, you mean like a
binder, yeah.
school? Okay.
I have a physical binder. I also have it on my
Very
computer.
analog. That's cool.
I can always update it and print
Mhm.
it out again. But I like to just have it sitting there with me, right next to my computer when I'm doing it. And then I can check off the different things.
I love that.
And yeah, so on the bottom of mine, and I think this is on the template, but I have things like money making projects and money keeping projects. So there's some things that you just do all the time. Like I'm always looking at my accounts. I'm always answering my bookkeeper's questions. Like I'm always doing my cash flow plan. But one project right now, Curtis, I don't know if you know this, but I just had a baby
No.
3 weeks ago.
Congratulations. Okay.
Yeah, so I have a new baby. And so one of my money projects is to set up a bank account for him
Mm-hmm.
and a Roth IRA
Mm-hmm.
and a 529 plan. Can you imagine if somebody set up a Roth IRA for you when you were born? So we already have one for my other son. And if you're like, well, wait, doesn't he need earned income to qualify for ROA or a Roth IRA? Yes, he does. I'm glad you asked. So what I also need to do is I need to hire him.
Right.
Now, what am I going to hire a 3-week-old baby to do? He's a baby model.
Right.
Started a new independent Schedule C business called Bay Area Model and Talent. And we specialize in child models for marketing. And so my agency can hire him to be a child model. And then my company can then hire that agency to use his images in my webinars and my marketing and my e-zines and my YouTube videos and stuff like that. So I did, research on reasonable salary. I have a work agreement. I have this business set up with its own EIN number and everything. So all of those are examples of money projects.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, because that's awesome because you have to, Napoleon Hill's book is called Think and Grow Rich. Right. And so you have to, you don't wander around and end up on top of Mount Everest. Like you got to sit down and you got to think about how to become financially free. You got to do stuff. You got to think, you got to take action, become, right? Then you here's your checklist, and then you get to have financial freedom. So that's the formula. And I love the detail that you broke in that. I never even thought about that. A money date. That's fantastic. I'm stealing that. I'm going to tell you. I mean, for me, Jeff, I do it, but not to that detail. So I think that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
I just want y'all to know if you're on the treadmill, you need to get back off and replay this thing. I have a page of notes and I'm doing the interview. All right. So keep going.
Awesome. Do you want me to keep talking about money dates?
I
Or-
do. If you got something else you want to share, I do want to think about. I don't know. I got time because I can always bring you back to talk about some of the strategies to take away from their business. But if you feel, but I really love the money date flow. So if you want to go deeper in that, that's fine, and we could do the other one another time.
I think we covered the main parts of it. Definitely download that checklist. It's at moneydatechecklist.com, and that'll get you started with the template. And so, like I was saying, I have projects on it. And then I also have continuing education because I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always increasing my financial education. So reading books, doing programs, going back and looking at my notes through through things I've already done. Like that's on my money date checklist because it's like, you will never run out of things to do, Penelope. So show up for your money date, block out that whole hour, and we will make sure you have stuff to do. That was my.
Let's talk about, tell me when you say the education, that's reading, that's a course you've taken, that's like, break that down because that to me that I do, that's critical. So, but I don't know if I do it on purpose, but I don't think people read, write, or really implement the stuff they're learning when they're going to courses, when there's stuff. And it looks like you've built that into your money date of how to make what I paid for get something out.
Yeah, because otherwise it's hard to find time to do it. And I think you'll find that my experience with a lot of like home study courses, online courses, books, is it's hard to carve out the time to go and do them. That's why I usually prefer to be in a live program where I have to show up to a live call.
Yes.
So I invest tens of thousands of dollars in programs like that every year. I'm in one for 20 grand. I'm in another for 12 grand because then I'll actually show up and do it. And so I love the live calls, but there are some things that I just want to learn that are in a book or course or something, or even in my past notes from these live workshops and mastermind stuff that I've done. And I like having that tickler in my life of like, hey, you could do this on your money date. You could go and review some of those things. But you're right. I think that in terms of like actually integrating the learning, we tend to only retain a very small percentage of what we read or experience in some kind of home study course. The best is experiences, immersions. That's why in my 3-day event, the Financial Freedom 101 event, we try to make it as experiential as possible. We play games and do visualizations and processes and shares to help like really integrate the information. You get to work on creating your own money date checklist, taking assessments, working on your financial freedom vision so that you're like taking action in real time, not just reading a book. And I think that sets you up better for success in terms of actually getting results. But I still read books too. Why not?
Yeah. So all of the above. Tell them, actually we're coming up on a timeline. Tell them how, if they want to follow, but really get with you or follow what you're doing or see about your retreats, what would you like them to do? What would be a good next?
Yeah, I mean, if you resonate with my energy and teaching style, I have a YouTube channel at Penelope. Just go search Penelope Jane Smith on YouTube, and there's a ton of like wonderful financial education videos on there. There's also the gender reveal video for the baby. Of course, you already know it's okay. Right. But there's that. So that's one place where you can learn more. I also have a free ebook called The Financial Freedom Formula to help you figure out like what it'll take for you to be financially free. And it's kind of a different take on what Curtis does, although very complimentary. So that's at financialfreedomgift.com. If you want to check that out, financialfreedomgift.com. And then if you really want to dive deep and get all your money systems together, then I would check out Financial Freedom 101. And that's a 3-day online event. So you can attend from anywhere. And over the 3 days, we will put all your money systems together so that your business or your job becomes a vehicle for creating wealth and financial freedom, not just making money. So you make money at the beginning of it, but then you have all your systems in place for managing and saving and investing. And there you go. So over the 3 days, you'll get all of that put together and you'll have the tools to become financially free forever. So that is available on my website for $497. But I'm going to give you a magic link, which is giftfrompenelope.com. When you use that link, you bypass the tuition. All you have to do is do a $97 seat deposit, which you get back after the event. The reason we ask for the seat deposit is because we're going to send you a workbook and workshop materials in the mail. So we don't want you to just be like, oh yeah, come to the workshop, whatever. We want you to actually be like, no, I'm I'm coming if we're going to be investing in you at that level. So that's why we ask for the deposit, but we do give it back, which means you get to come as my guest. And the link for that is giftfrompenelope.com. That is my gift to you when you use that link.
Okay. So we will put all of that in her social media stuff in the show notes, and make sure you reach out. That was some good stuff. I think if y'all going to go back, and if you don't reach out to her, if you implement the money date, download, that's really powerful. And I've never heard that before. That is fantastic. Okay.
I love it.
So we're going to be in touch, girl. I'm telling you. So the, this, my head is racing, but I know I want to be respectful over your time. So we definitely will want to get you back on, because I really love our back and forth about different stuff. We have a lot of similar ideas. So Penelope, take them out. Anything I've missed that you want to say? I'm gonna give you the last word.
Sure. I was scrolling around on Facebook a while back, and you know how they post these like quotes or memes? It was anonymous, so I can't like give credit to the person. It was just this quote, but it like totally stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, that is it. And it said, do something today that your future self will thank you for.
I love that.
Do something today that your future self will thank you for. And I was like, yes. And I am so thankful to my past self for going through everything I've gone through and learning everything I've learned, and like being on this path of creating financial freedom. And I'm so grateful to my past self for all the freedom and prosperity that's in my life right now. And so my hope for you and my intention is that you take this juicy interview, this juicy conversation with me and Curtis, and you do one thing today, whether that's scheduling your first money date, downloading the checklist, downloading the ebook, like whatever it is, do one thing today that your future self will thank you for.
All right. So I'm going to let that be the last word. Penelope, thank you so much for joining us on the Practical Wealth Show. Like I said, I'm going to put the information in show notes. Reach out to her. And listen, folks, I have no original thoughts, right? So I get good because I talk to smart people like her. Okay. And so go out there, check her out. And thanks again for this listening to the Practical Wealth Show. And we'll see you next week. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted.